All right, we're on live on the video. Hey, everybody, how's it going? About to go live here in about a minute. Shout out to guest 2 in the chat room, which I think is Steve. Debut episode coming up very, very shortly. When the countdown begins.
Can't do the Royal Rumble countdown.
Yeah, no. Dun, dun, dun.
If only.
If only.
This is such a beautiful table.
I know, isn't it a nice table? Gosh, so much room.
Gosh,
All right.
Gotta love IKEA.
Yeah, gotta love it. All right, it's 8 p.m. We about ready to give this a whirl? Got all your jitterbugs and butterflies out of your system?
Yeah.
Do the jitterbug. All right, here we go.
Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Off the Ropes Live with your host, Derek Partin, and Sports Radio Detroit's Dan Bartley. This show is dedicated to all things WWE, old school and new school. Tonight's show is our debut episode, as we will be talking to you about the road to WrestleMania. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, everyone, good evening and welcome, as I said, to Off the Ropes Live. Again, I'm your host, Derek Partin. Alongside me is Sports Radio Detroit's Dan Bartley. Dan, how's it going tonight, man?
It's going great. It's good to be back on the air. It's feeling good here.
On your way over here tonight, you had a little bit of a hairy encounter. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, dear. Yeah, I had an unfortunate run-in with a rodent on Marquette here, heading in the Garden City area. Hit a possum, and because I'm a good citizen, I'm a very caring soul. Mm-hmm. Drove around and
kind of look back. Did you look back in your mirror and you kind of knew that you did him in?
Yeah, it was rolling around in there.
Oh, dear.
It was not a pretty thing. I found it, and so did the truck behind me. Let's just put it that way.
Got a double whammy, as you would
unfortunately.
Say. I can't say I've ever really killed an animal as far as running it over with a vehicle. Never hit a deer, never hit a rabbit, squirrel, possum. Not that I know of anyway. Never felt it happen. But
good thing you got a big Hulkamania truck there.
Hulkamania truck. Well, actually, no. That was Steve. Steve used to have a Sierra truck, and I always had the little SUVs. So, but yeah, I'm very kind to animals. So there's that. So WWE, that's the main purpose why we're here tonight. Why don't we kick things off with some Royal Rumble talk? Royal Rumble this past Sunday, not a bad show. A lot better than the last 2 years, I would say. As far as less predictable. Even though we did pick the winner of the Royal Rumble, Triple H, we did that in our test show a couple weeks ago. I changed my pick. I was going originally with Brock Lesnar, as I think a lot of people were. The top 3, I'm sure, were Triple H, Brock Lesnar, and Roman Reigns. They did switch up the outcome a little bit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The overall show, though, I got to give it, if I were to give it a letter grade, I'd give it probably a solid B+.
Yeah, I would agree to that. To put in perspective, it was, I picked Brock kind of the same time you did because of how strong Brock was looking and how WWE was building up the character of Brock Lesnar winning the Royal Rumble, and everything seemed to fit. And then you kind of think about Roman Reigns possibly winning it, kind of like the, underdog, can he do it? But then you get the mix of, you start thinking logically and you start really thinking, okay, what makes sense for Fastlane? And then going on to the road to WrestleMania, Triple H winning the Rumble sets everything up and puts it just right there, crystal clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as far as Triple H winning, I think that was a little bit of a swerve in the plans of what a lot of people thought was going to happen, especially when you have Roman Reigns get eliminated second to last. A lot of people thought that he would be in the final two with Triple H. But throwing Dean Ambrose into the mix. And speaking of Dean Ambrose, kicking off the show with Kevin Owens in a remarkable, I thought it was very, very entertaining, action-packed last man standing match for the Intercontinental Championship. Awesome match. And, of course, Dean Ambrose comes away with the win. That spot off the top rope and pushing Kevin Owens through both tables. I mean, just it kind of took you back a little bit to like how the original table matches were, like with the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. Like it had a little bit of Attitude Era-esque to it, and really impressive, you know. And I mean, these two guys, for his size, I mean, I know you're a big fan of Kevin Owens. And for his size, the guy he's agile. He moves around great in the ring. I mean, we've known years of experience back when he was known as Kevin Steen over in the Indies. The guy's a hell of a talent. The guy can move, and he's awesome. And Dean Ambrose, just amazing at what he does. And what were your thoughts on this match?
You know, I thought it was probably a quality match, and
stole the show.
It did steal the show. You know, it was the opener, and it set the tone for the rest of the show to an extent. You know, besides that match, there wasn't a whole lot that. If you were not paying $9.99 for the network for $55, you didn't get your money's worth.
Right.
Which is insane if you're not paying for the network, in my opinion. But the overall match was great. I liked the storytelling was great. It was very back and forth. You didn't really know who was going to win, and that's what I like. And I'm a big Owens fan. I really am, and I kind of can relate to Owens in a way. You know, heavy set guy, bigger guy, can move. You know, if I was going to be a professional wrestler, I would be just like Kevin Owens.
That'd be your character. And I think, too, with the aspect of the match, it was kind of like a TLC match minus the ladders because, I mean, a lot of uses of chairs, a lot of uses of tables, announce tables, normal round tables. They were doing some, you know, the suicide dive that he tried to do on Owens early in the match got caught in midair. That brain buster, I thought that was pretty spectacular, too. Just a lot of really crazy spots in that match that I just did not expect to see out of those two. And it was really a solid 20-25 minute match. And, as far as Dean Ambrose goes, a lot of people that have been talking about the Royal Rumble, the names you hear bring up are, Triple H and Roman Reigns. But if I had to pick an MVP for that show, I would have to go with Dean Ambrose. Just for the hell that he went through in the opening match. You figure he has 2 hours to kind of get ready for the Royal Rumble. And then he's in the Royal Rumble for probably a good half hour in itself and survive all the way to the final two. And, it just shows the grit and the determination and just, how well he was in shape for the entire pay-per-view. I think that I got to give the nod to him as far as like the MVP of the show.
Yeah, he definitely earned his paycheck and then some at the Rumble. Pulling double duty, and Owens did as well. Owens did a sell job walking out there to the Rumble that could be up for debate, but the Rumble was full of surprises. And at number 3, we know who number 3 was.
Oh yeah,
and also Sami Zayn returned, and then there's another name that didn't come out there that after I seen Sami Zayn. Finn Balor was
Finn Balor? Where's your boy Finn?
Where's Finn Balor?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you can't bring Styles, Zayn, and Balor out for the Rumble and have all 3 of them get eliminated. It just doesn't work.
Right.
But overall, it was really just quality from top to bottom.
Yeah, it was. I know that there was an interview I saw that was on No DQ earlier today that Bret Hart did, and he was basically calling the Royal Rumble one of the worst he's ever seen. As far as the predictability of it, how there was no real storytelling or excitement, not the surprises entrance that we are used to seeing. I guess by surprise he meant Attitude Era guys.
Are you expecting Kevin Nash to run out there and
bust a quad? Bust a quad again or something. This was the year of NXT, and we saw a lot of former NXT guys. We saw a lot of current NXT guys. And, that's, I think, really what WWE is shooting for nowadays. They're trying to keep it still old school, new school mixed together, but you don't want to go too far off. I was hearing something about Shawn Michaels. Like they were willing to pay him top dollar just to make an appearance in the Rumble. Like he's not leaving that beautiful, hunting show that he's doing right now on the Outdoor Channel. He's not going to leave there to come, and do Royal Rumble spot for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then what does that give WWE? What does that give the fans?
Right.
Yeah, it's Shawn Michaels, and he's a draw, and he's the showstopper, and he's everything with all of his accolades. But what does that really bring? You're going to have Shawn Michaels in there, and then you have the original Triple H winning it. So how's that going to plan out?
To be in there to congratulate his old buddy, I mean, I get that. Like if he were to come down and congratulate him, but you can't really buff the storylines of the Authority. It's all about Triple H and the McMahons. You got Vince and you got Stephanie. That's the trio, the Authority, that's trying to kind of take the spotlight off of Roman Reigns a little bit. That's the whole storyline going forward. Another name that a lot of people were probably a little bit bummed that they didn't see, who just got recently cleared from injury, Daniel Bryan.
That's a tough one. I think that if you're going to bring Daniel Bryan back, you're going to bring him back at a Fastlane or even at a WrestleMania. I think that is your best bet, and you have him do something impactful.
Right.
You bring him into the Royal Rumble at number 15, and you have him get tossed out at 23, 24. Mm-hmm. What is that saying? That just doesn't give you what you want as a fan, and that makes the product just downgraded. I don't think that's best for business, as a Triple H motto would be.
Oh, absolutely. Daniel Bryan, and I think I've talked to this with people at work. I've talked to this with Chris, our friend Chris. It'd be a short-term thing for me to see Daniel Bryan back. Throwing him into a title picture right now would not be safe, I don't think, for his career, especially that the fact that he really can't be doing a lot of the top rope, suicide dives and just all of the recklessness that he was doing in the ring. And granted, he can keep himself under control. He's not a big-time botcher. He's a guy that I fear for, because really he's in his early 30s. He's a guy that really needs to tone it down, and I know that he's been dying to get cleared, which he did. A Royal Rumble spot, you could get away with not doing it. If he would have came in the Royal Rumble at, say, a late entry, it would have been a huge pop, but it also would have taken away maybe a little bit from AJ Styles as well. And
here you go. Here's a segue right here. Is Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles recently tweeted at each other?
Yes.
So just think of that for all of us, that geeked out when AJ Styles came out at 3. Mm-hmm. Just imagine possibly at WrestleMania or even, a future date. AJ Styles is 38 years old. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bryan's, I believe, is in his mid-30s.
Yep.
Just imagine those two in the ring one time. That would be worth the price of admission.
Oh, absolutely. And really with Daniel Bryan and in the Indies, I mean, they've had history before. Before AJ was even in TNA, which he had a 12-year tenure in. He is known as the phenomenal one for a reason, because he's a guy that has basically done everything but be in WWE. It's kind of like Sting, how he was with WCW, but way, way bigger and more better wrestling ability. What he did over in the Indies, overseas, just what he can do. I mean, you could definitely argue that he is the best wrestler in the world, right up there with Chris Jericho, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. The ability of what they can do is just absolutely amazing. Mm. And I've seen a lot of AJ Styles' old videos, and he is just the guy. He doesn't look 38, and he definitely does not move around like he's 38. And we'll talk a little bit later on about what happened on Monday Night Raw with him and Chris Jericho. But yeah, for WrestleMania, I mean, that would be an amazing match to see. I've been even thinking about possibly leading into this Fastlane pay-per-view with the triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship it was for a chance at the World Heavyweight Championship between Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Brock Lesnar. Is it possible to have a guy like Dean Ambrose turn heel?
Yes, absolutely. I've been waiting for the day that he joins the Authority and becomes Seth Rollins 2.0. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened yet.
It's been teased.
And it has been, if you're in the social media bug, that's where I try to stay away. I try to stay away from all these, wrestling is kind of taken a backwards turn. And if you go on social media and you're constantly reading all these dirt sheets and all this stuff, it really ruins wrestling for you.
Oh, it does.
You're going to know what's going to happen. You know who's signed. You know who's leaving. I try to stay away.
And I think that's exactly right, because that has been nothing but the downfall for Roman Reigns. Because of people that go on these dirts. I mean, I'm one of them, I'll admit, but it's not going to really tarnish my mind of like who I really like as a wrestler. Now, granted, I'm not a Roman Reigns hater, but I'm not a big fan either. I'm kind of in the middle of Roman Reigns. He's kind of starting to sell me a little bit more and more of how they're booking him, how he's been presenting himself, how he's been able to speak on the mic lately. His promos have gotten way better. If you look at the Roman Reigns from 2014 till now, total 360. I mean, the guy his wrestling ability has improved. His speaking has improved. He's toned down the believe that, that got old real quick. Yeah. No tater tot promos like he did that one night on Raw. But really just those dirt sheets are what have really killed him, and that's why he got booed at the Royal Rumble yet again. It was more of a mixed reaction. It wasn't quite what it was last year, but yeah, when we saw Roman Reigns enter the Rumble, it was more boos than cheers, and those dirt sheets, spoiler sites, whatever you want to call them, forum sites, that is what has kind of ruined wrestling storylines today. It's, you can have the best creative team on, in the company, and yeah, it doesn't really help when you don't have very interesting or storytelling storylines, but when people are already kind of reading ahead and seeing, who's the next golden boy, Roman Reigns.
It's unfortunate what the dirt sheet has done to wrestling. That is the one thing is, WWE is scripted. Yes,
Technology.
it's fake. It's not real for us anymore.
Oh no, it's still real to me, damn it.
But yeah, like it's still a phenomenal product. The thing with it is 3 hours is just too much to keep a person's attention.
Yes.
There's so much other things going on. And the 3 hours, unless you're a diehard fan, which Derek and I are,
we still are.
It's extremely difficult to even keep my attention for 3 hours on WWE right now.
When they first went to 3 hours, a couple years ago when they were doing the super shows and whatnot, I was skeptical of it, but I liked it. It was kind of like when it first happened, oh my God, like more wrestling, more entertainment. We thought it was going to be a lot more in depth, but really all it's done is kind of created more commercial breaks during matches, which is totally unnecessary. You look back in the old days, dude, they were never taking commercial breaks during live matches. Very rarely were they. If they were in somewhat mid-card matches, but when you're taking 1 and 2 commercial breaks in like a main event or a really big type match, unnecessary, and WWE can afford to not have so many commercials, trust me. But that third hour though, I just feel like it's just more for, they're trying to put more matches on the show, and the matches are a little bit longer. You're seeing more 10 to 15 minute matches now, but they get boring, and you start seeing it in the crowd, the noise, the intensity, the excitement. I would be totally cool with the Raw going back to 9 to 11, 2 hours. No, it didn't. It was no problem back, 5, 10, 15 years ago. There's no reason why they can't do it today. I know that the technology is more there. They have more sponsors they want to try to promote on the air. That's another reason why they have that third hour. But yeah, it really, I get tired right around the 10 o'clock mark.
It is really difficult to just stay focused. And then to an argument to that is, what about all these guys that are coming up now? Is that there's so many talented guys in NXT. There's so many guys waiting in the wings to grab that brass ring and climb. Give that extra hour to them. I know you don't want to do a whole NXT Raw merger type show. NXT needs to stay its own brand, its own, its own thing.
Universe, yeah.
But those guys are going to be here.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a lot of talent there that is unfortunately right now kind of just not getting what it needs right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've talked about this in the past. I know that Triple H is very against making NXT, giving it its own hour on Raw, as you were kind of suggesting there. And as a fan myself of both WWE and NXT, not so much NXT. I mean, I'm still kind of starting to kind of get the hang of what it's all about. But the wrestling and the characters they have on there are just phenomenal, and they're definitely up and comers. And there's definitely a handful of them that will be on the main roster very soon. I don't know if I would really be down to having it as its own hour on Raw. Like you said, keep it its own brand, I think would be best for it right now. Mm-hmm. The shows that are right now traveling, that whole tour they're doing on, the Detroit show that's coming up very soon.
I think it's this weekend.
Yeah, sold out in a matter of, 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to be in a very small venue in Royal Oak Music Hall, but still, I mean, that's nothing compared to what Raw does, nowadays. And NXT
tickets
shows
are going for $150.
Yeah.
And, the Raw that's coming in Detroit February 22nd is, maybe 100
tickets
for floor
seats.
seats.
Yeah, they say tickets starting at 20, but I mean, I checked just the other day. They're well over $50. Obviously, all the cheap seats are probably gone, but I usually like to wait until kind of like a few days beforehand or even a week prior to see what the tickets are. But yeah, I mean, the prices for Raw nowadays have definitely skyrocketed a little bit more than what they were back in the day. But NXT, man, is just, I would not mind seeing an NXT show live. That show in Royal Oak, I would love to see for a reasonable price, but unfortunately sold out. Gonna have to wait till next time.
Yeah, unless you're willing to just break out the bank there and pull up the truck, the Brinks truck to the WWE arena and say, here you go, here's my whole paycheck. But it's not, the product is worth your dollar and your time, but that much money is not a good investment.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see, spending $30 to $40. They see it as a 3 hour product. You're going there, not a 2 hour show no more, but you're going there for a 3 hour show, and that also counts the pre-show that they record for superstars. They have like that one match for superstars that starts at 7:30. So technically, you're paying for a 3.5 hour show with very mediocre storylines and one big storyline and maybe 2 or 3 decent matches. Yeah, I mean, I'll pay $30, but I probably won't pay no more than that.
Yeah, depending on who's the card, on the card, I should say, is really what is the deciding factor for me.
Right.
Brock Lesnar's advertised, Chris Jericho's advertised for the show in Detroit. That's automatically like, okay.
And that's another thing, too, is that I just realized just a few days ago that it is the Raw after Fastlane, the next pay-per-view coming
So
up.
it's an intriguing. It is like, okay, this could be a really good show, and it's completely just absolutely starts the WrestleMania journey.
Road to WrestleMania, as our show is titled, it definitely starts after the Royal Rumble, but a whole month later after Fastlane, I mean, then you really start to see what the main feuds are going to be leading into WrestleMania. And, we touched on it before earlier, the Royal Rumble match kind of had a lot of hints. They were dropping a lot of hints. Stare downs were happening, and going back to the Royal Rumble match, obviously we got to bring up Brock Lesnar again, because Brock Lesnar had a very interesting encounter with the Wyatt family, more in particular Bray Wyatt, and I think that is going to be a potential match for WrestleMania: Bray Wyatt versus Brock Lesnar.
I could definitely see that happening, but who is the face and heel going into this? I don't think you really need to have a face or a heel in this. I think this kind of can stand still at its own, and this is the ultimate big time. Okay, Bray, you're going against Brock. Don't mess it up. Don't have a good quality match. You're going to take your lumps. You're going to Suplex City. You're going to get hurt a little bit because Brock Lesnar, he gets in the ring with you. He's going to throw you around.
And
He's
Bray's
going to hurt
not
you.
no spring chicken. He's a big boy.
So it'll be a good test, and I think it'll be a good match. Depending what's going to happen with the whole Wyatt family. Obviously, those men are huge, and do you want to have them kind of beat up on Brock Lesnar a couple weeks?
Are they going to be allowed on ringside at WrestleMania if they do end up pulling the trigger on Brock and Bray? Are the Wyatt family going to be? I mean, obviously, you got to have something for Braun Strowman. I know Braun Strowman. I was reading some insider news that Vince McMahon is very high on Braun Strowman, but he's a big guy, and he doesn't really know the wrestling ropes yet, so to speak. He's not really a wrestler. He's just kind of like
a brawler.
Yeah, he's a brawler. Yeah, he's a brawler.
Goes in there and throws you around, punches you.
If you watch him, he's very stiff in the ring. He's not very. Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Just
he's not very
coordinated. He's
coordinated,
not
flexible in the ring.
He
He's
just
not,
throws his weight around.
And here's the ultimate thing for him, and this is an attest to him. And I don't even like his gimmick a whole lot. I think it's kind of getting a little stale on me. Is you have him face The Undertaker in the Undertaker's going away match. Gives him a match against one of the best. It's going to be 5 minutes, if that. He's going to go in the ring.
That's not counting both entrances.
Yeah, The Undertaker's entrance will be 15 minutes as itself.
Yep.
You go in the ring. You throw The Undertaker around for a minute. You get tombstoned if The Undertaker can pick you up. And you're done. Simple as that.
Torch passed somewhat, because I mean, it's really hard to say if that could be the Undertaker's last match. We're all praying, and me as a big time Undertaker fan, you know this of me, I'm praying that this is Undertaker's final match, final WrestleMania. As far as being an in-ring competitor, because the guy's going to be 51. And the way I look at it, it's like his best matches have been probably 2 to 3 years behind him. His last good match was probably against Triple H, Hell in a Cell. He had a lackluster match with CM Punk, of course, the Brock Lesnar debacle there with the concussion, and that almost ended his career right there. He kind of had a little bit of a redemption match against Bray Wyatt last year. And then this year, really, it was supposed to be John Cena. That was touched upon. Cena went down with an injury. He's out for 6 to 8 months. Now you're back to square one with an Undertaker match at WrestleMania. My two biggest opponents for him would probably be Braun Strowman or Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens has been vouching for a match with Undertaker. But if you continue this whole thing, because now I've been hearing that Kevin Owens and AJ Styles might be having a long-term feud.
See, and either one, I like Owens versus Taker.
Yeah.
But you got to really put Owens over. You got to have Owens.
Do you have him win?
You can't have Owens beat Taker.
But it's got to be a very good match for both guys. It's got to be somewhat of an A-quality match, because you got a guy that's in his late 20s, early 30s like Kevin Owens. Then you got a guy like Taker who's 51 and can barely move. I mean, he can still move for his age. He's a big guy. as far as a wrestling match, you're not going to get creativity out of it, but it's going to be a very stiff, very. It's not going to be a fast-paced match, if you want to call it that. But whoever Undertaker wrestles, obviously he's going to.
Or
be
he doesn't wrestle at all. Or Undertaker doesn't wrestle. He's there and he does a quote-unquote run-in, walk-in, I should say, for him. Yeah. And he goes in there and does what he does. Goes in there, tombstone somebody, chokeslam somebody, and leaves. And that's that. Doesn't get another win on the record. Doesn't get another loss. But I don't think
I don't see that happening.
I don't think that would suffice for a lot of WWE fans.
Especially when you're going into Texas, you're going to AT&T Stadium. You're going to set an attendance record for WrestleManias. You're going to have all your big stars there: Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, McMahon. They're all going to be there. Undertaker's going to be there. He's wrestling, and this is undoubtedly going to be, since Sting is going in the Hall of Fame this year. I can see Undertaker going in the Hall of Fame next year, headlining that Hall of Fame.
Now, if I'm a writer, which I'm not, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, Sting's going in the Hall of Fame. You have Undertaker and Sting with a stare down, and you have Sting get tombstone.
We're talking WrestleMania here?
You're talking WrestleMania.
So the night after Sting gets inducted,
he gets tombstoned.
How would that really come
I don't know
about?
if Sting can take any bumps.
I mean, he can take bumps,
it's just a thought.
I don't.
Everybody wants to see the icon versus the phenom. And it's an idea. Mm-hmm. It's not maybe my best idea, but it's an idea. You can't have them two wrestle against each other because I think Sting's career is over, obviously. But you can do something with them too, even a stare down, a look.
They were already discussing plans for this year's WrestleMania at the airport after last year's WrestleMania. Social media blew up about it. Sting and Undertaker. It's going to happen at WrestleMania 32. And then of course Sting has his injury with Seth Rollins in that World Heavyweight Title match. And, he had to have, obviously surgery, whatever, and his career's in jeopardy. I really don't see Sting competing again in a WWE ring. Taking a bump, that's another thing that could be different. Could it be against Undertaker? Who knows?
If you're going to do something like that and you're going to have Sting in the ring one more time, have it against the Undertaker.
It's got to be.
Have that against the Undertaker. Sting wants it. Mm-hmm. He said on the WWE Network panel show that I just recently watched, Undertaker and Sting, WrestleMania, do something with it. Do something. It doesn't have to be a match. I would be satisfied with them just having a stare down, shaking hands, tombstone.
You're talking about the guy that the 10 years, the men of 10 years, the longest tenured superstar in WWE versus the longest tenured WCW superstar. I mean, they both were
the catalyst for their brands.
The catalyst for their brands, legends in their own right. And it would be fitting, especially in Texas, where they're both from. Or reside, as Sting is now residing in Texas, it would just make more sense. It would make the most sense.
Now, I pose the question to you. I answered the question. You're a huge Undertaker fan. We all know that now. Would you be opposed to this idea? Would you be satisfied with a handshake or a nod of the cap or an epic stare down or a tombstone? Would you be satisfied with that, or would you say, no, I don't want to bring Sting and the Undertaker in the equation at all?
Now, is this also on top of a match for the Undertaker, or is this just all he does at WrestleMania?
This is his WrestleMania.
No, I wouldn't be satisfied because I feel like and realistically speaking, I don't see it happening because they're going to do everything in their power to sell this place out and make it the biggest WrestleMania of all time. It's going to have 100,000 people in there. It's going to break the Silverdome's record. Yeah. They're all wrestling. Now, The Rock, he can't wrestle because of something about
movie commitments.
Insurance. Yeah, he's got movie commitments and an insurance issue. Stone Cold, he'll be there. He'll probably be in some sort of an in-ring segment. Undertaker, you got to have him wrestle. And the fact that he hasn't really made that announcement, or they haven't really talked about Taker in a last match type of ability here, I think that it's going to happen at WrestleMania. And they still got 2.5 months to still promote this, book it. Really, last night on Raw, that's who I was kind of thinking was going to be showing up as a surprise appearance. It didn't end up being that way, but they still got plenty of time. And I think that they got to be in shambles right now. I would hate to be in that creative room right now trying to think of a storyline and an opponent for WrestleMania for The Undertaker, because there's a lot of options that you can go with. Now, Sting and Undertaker, they'll probably encounter each other at WrestleMania. It'd be cool if they did maybe a backstage segment. You got Sting in his tuxedo. You got Undertaker in his ring gear. They encounter each other backstage. That would be cool. If you got Undertaker in his cloak and his hat and whatever he's dressed up as, and they encounter each other backstage and they do somewhat of a stare down, and Undertaker, they nod at each other. That would be kind of cool.
Now, here's what I propose. Everybody tune in the next couple weeks. I will give you my dream opponent for The Undertaker. Derek knows who this is.
Mm-hmm. If you're a true wrestling fan, you should know it too.
I'm not gonna give it away. I gave Derek a little hint as to who it was earlier today.
We can all. I guess it's safe to say that we can also say that this would be, and we
makes perfect sense.
Yes, it does, and this is kind of goes along with the topic of our show. It would be old school versus new school. Mm-hmm. And that's really the only hint that we're going to give you. And I'd be totally cool with this. Danny's talked to me about this, and I think that it would make the most sense. IWC pages, all the wrestling fans are out there. They're pushing for this match because this would be the ultimate passing of the torch. And in about 2 or 3 weeks,
yep.
Probably maybe even after Fastlane, we'll discuss more about it and we'll reveal who this person is. And if you're a true wrestling fan, you should probably already know it. But yeah, I'm all for that. Going back to, I don't want to segue too much here, but to touch more on the Royal Rumble, we had a few very minimal matches. Alberto Del Rio versus Kalisto for the United States Championship. Yeah. They hand the title back to Kalisto, and I've talked to you about this. How redundant is it that two Mexicans
ring around the title here?
Yeah, and besides that, two Mexicans battling it out for the United States Championship. That's so redundant to me. Obviously, I can see they're pushing Kalisto because with Sin Cara on the shelf with an injury. I get it. He's a high flyer. He's a luchador. Great wrestler, great ability. He's definitely an amazing athlete. And then you got Alberto Del Rio, who's he
looks good since his return.
He is. He's definitely
I'll give him that. He does look built, and he looks he looks good. He's moving better. Mm-hmm. And I watched him a little bit in Lucha Underground, and he looked well. He did well there. But I just think that since his return to WWE, he hasn't really had any strong gimmicks.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing's been there for him.
Yeah,
it hasn't worked for him. Mm-mm. The whole Zeb Coulter debacle.
Zeb Coulter's gone. Yeah, I mean, I just read something not too long ago that said, they're pretty much done with the Zeb Coulter character. Like, they had that little feud with him and Swagger, where Zeb and him, they had their Mex America type deal, and that faded real quickly. And then Zeb Coulter's just written off of TV. Like, see you later, Zeb. I kind of missed the Alberto Del Rio when he used to drive in Mercedes-Benz into the arena with the white scarf around his neck. Like, that's the Alberto Del Rio I liked. I think that got him more heat as a heel.
I can see it.
But yeah, this is really, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. Just kind of like playing, like you said, ring around the title. Like, kind of just, all right, you hold it this week. Oh, here, I'll drop it to you this week. I hope that now that they've had this, Royal Rumble match, I hope that they just kind of run with Kalisto for at least till WrestleMania with the belt. Him and Del Rio, I can see that. I mean, should they throw in an American into the match? Just saying, the United States, two Mexicans and an American. What do you say?
Goodness. I don't want to make it into that. I want to stay away from that whole situation that you brought up. It's funny. It's entertaining, but I want to stay away from that and just go with. I don't know who to add though. I really don't know who to throw into that. Do you want to throw in like another mid-carder? Do you want to throw in?
Do I dare say Dolph Ziggler?
You can
put him back into a title picture.
Throw in Dolph Ziggler.
Because he's been. I think he's been Dolph Jobber lately. Dolph
Ziggler. What has happened to him?
He's become stale. They let his character become stale.
I thought it was Shawn Michaels 2.0, and now he's just another guy that's coming out for a house show basically. He's nothing spectacular.
He don't have Lana. When he was with Lana, they had that little love triangle thing with him and Lana and Rusev. It kind of just, that kind of gave him a little bit of an extra spark, and fans still kind of cared about him. But I mean, he's getting pretty silent reactions now. I mean, when he was always in a storyline, not just going out there for matches, because the guy can wrestle, no doubt about it. He's
very good.
He's a seasoned vet. He's been in the WWE now for probably almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. He's definitely his ability has not died down. He can still wrestle, mm-hmm. but there's no storylines around him.
Yeah, he has no writing help whatsoever. No. His gimmick is just extremely dull, and he's just kind of there right now, occupying space. And he's going out there and he's putting on a good quality match with whoever it might be that night. I think he has good matches with Owens. He's had a few with Ambrose.
Jericho, I think he's had some matches with.
I think he's had one with Jericho that's been pretty good. But as far as the storytelling goes, it lacks. And I know he's got, only a few more years. I know he's doing like stand-up comedy or something like that in Vegas. So, he's going to be done. Mm-hmm. And no one just seems to really. I don't see Ziggler making any kind of push for the rest of his career.
Yeah. I think that he's kind of on the twilight of it. I can see him kind of riding off into the sunset maybe in another 2 or 3 years. I know that there was that big contract talk about him, leaving the company just last year that he eventually ended up re-signing. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's kind of worn out his welcome a little bit in WWE. I think he's not as fresh as he was, and they've just kind of run out of ideas for his character, and it's a shame because he's a really good talent. What about Charlotte? Charlotte and Becky Lynch at Royal Rumble, the Divas match for the title. Once again, Charlotte wins with help from her old man. Definitely, didn't see that one coming. Totally predictable. But It was the end of the match
that's what's enticing.
That's what's enticing because this is what fans everywhere have been begging for, and it's for Sasha Banks to finally kind of break out of her shell in WWE and go just to being the boss. Break away from that team bad crap and just be yourself. And she's not a face, she's not a heel, she's just out for herself. And we saw that happen after the match when she kicked Becky Lynch through the ropes. And then we thought maybe she was going to shake hands with Charlotte and really be a true heel, but she did the bank statement on her too. So I couldn't be more happier. I mean, I think that Sasha is going to be somewhat of a saving grace for the Divas division. And just wait until this whole Total Divas hoopla comes up because they're doing separate storylines. They're doing the Divas title storyline, and then of course Total Divas because it's season premieres coming, whatever.
Right.
But once that's all blown over, I think that you're going to see come WrestleMania probably a fatal four-way, which I hope to see. I would love to see a fatal four-way between Charlotte, Sasha, Paige, and Becky Lynch. I think that would be great.
Yeah, like I like the whole idea of the fatal women's match. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say fatal men's match, but
Yeah.
fatal four-way. But there's a whole there, the whole Total Divas thing. It drives me nuts. You're playing off of Total Divas, and your main stars are Nikki Bella on the shelf and Brie Bella, who's wrestling every Raw, every SmackDown,
Alicia Fox
against Natty or
Yeah.
against some other woman.
Yeah,
That
and it's all and Total Divas is all scripted anyway. It's a reality show, but it's totally scripted. We know that a lot of the stuff on there they base it off of real life events and whatnot. But yeah, everything on that show is just a big farce, and it's all scripted. And I've never watched one episode.
Like I'll give you this. It is worth watching. I know it might sound a little like you're like, oh, he watches that.
Oh, you're a prima donna.
But yeah, I'm a little bit of a diva. I'll give it.
Oh boy,
I'll
you're
give it that.
here to
But
hear, folks.
I'll take all the criticism, but it's not a bad show. Like I'm a big Paige fan, so when Paige is on there, my eyes are glued to the set.
Yes,
as you would be too, and it's nice to see them off character. Like some of them are obviously probably still playing to the camera, playing the character, but it is cool to see the interactions backstage with each individual wrestler, male and female. It brings you behind the scenes of pro wrestling. It's kind of cool. Yes, it's still scripted, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's still worth a view if you have time. But it's terrible by WWE to have Total Divas going against Royal Rumble on Sunday night. That was absolutely terrible.
Yep.
I know that's E Network and WWE Network, but that's terrible ideas.
Yeah.
It was absolutely terrible.
And honestly, I didn't even happen to see the ratings for Total Divas, but I know that I think it was right up there with one of the top 5 rated cable shows on the air that night. So it still did good in the ratings, and they promote the hell out of it. But I just wish that they would keep Total Divas out of WWE storylines. You know what I'm saying? Like have separate Divas matches. You have 2 Divas matches on Raw. One set, like I said, is for the Divas. It's usually Charlotte, Becky Lynch. That's your title picture. And then of course you got the 4 girls from Total Divas. You got Paige, you got Natty, and then you got Alicia Fox and Brie Bella. I mean, nobody cares.
It really is just one of those type things. You're like, oh, okay, this is where I'll go grab the chips. But what it is for me is I want to see the best women compete.
Yep.
And I don't care if it's Total Divas. I don't care if they're not on Total Divas. I want to see Sasha Banks. I want to see Paige. And yes, I want to see NXT's Bayley.
Yep.
And I want to be entertained. And women wrestling for me is one of those things is I'm a male, in my mid-20s. Yes, I enjoy it, but it's one of those things where I'm not there for the sex appeal. I want to see quality. I want to see good technique and good quality matches. And it might be weird that you're saying, wow, how can a 27-year-old male admit to saying that? He doesn't want to hope for a wardrobe malfunction. But that's not me anymore.
Yeah.
That was
we've kind of grown out of it.
That was
yeah.
18-year-old me. Now I want to see Sasha Banks.
We're not little horn dogs anymore like we used to be when we were teenagers. We actually want quality nowadays. And some people, I know a person that might be listening tonight that might not agree with you. He grew up with the Litas of the world, the Trish Strasses of the world, the Sables of the world.
Well, that was the Attitude Era.
That was the Attitude Era and the sex appeal, like you were discussing. And as much as I loved Lita, which she brought everything, though. She was sex appeal and she was
and she could do it in the ring.
Wrestler. Oh, my God. Wrestling with men. I mean, she could wrestle with men just as Chyna could, even though she was a freaking glamazon. But, really, the ability, the wrestling has definitely just dramatically changed over the last 10 to 15 years. And that is why I think that's why now they had to rebrand the championship from the women's title to the Divas title, because the Divas title doesn't hold as much history as women's wrestling, because the women's title goes all the way back to the 50s. Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, back in those days. And then, of course, it just kind of got more sex appeal. It was more on the breasts and the asses and the bodies of the women, except they didn't have the wrestling. But now the wrestling has kind of ruled more over the looks. The outfits are more conservative than what they used to be back in the Attitude Era. And, I'm cool with that.
Absolutely.
The fact that they're giving them they're more of airtime, and they're coming on now. They usually lead up to the main event of Raws or even pay-per-views. So, I just really would hope that the storylines would improve.
That's exactly what I want to see. Now, if you tune into NXT and you watch Sasha Banks versus Bayley at, a pay-per-view or so ago.
That 30-minute Iron Woman match was amazing.
Was absolutely insane. You give these women 20 minutes of a pay-per-view and go out and you tell them, okay, go out there, quality content.
And steal the show.
And they will absolutely do it. All these women, the majority of them, are very talented. They don't just look good. They're great performers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I want to see.
They train properly. And, I mean, they've had the best in the business. I mean, right away, Becky Lynch, she was trained by Finn Balor. They trained together. And look at where Finn Balor's gone and look at what Becky Lynch is now doing. I mean, it's phenomenal to see the just how much more in depth and in tune they are with their wrestling moves these days. And not a lot of people, old school wrestling fans, don't care. They don't care about the wrestling. They care about the storylines or the looks of how they dressed. I've kind of grown out of that. If you want that, go on the network and go watch Raws from 1999 or something. You can do that, and I've done it too.
Yeah.
If I feel nostalgic, I'll go turn on the WWE Network and I'll watch a Raw or a SmackDown from the late 90s.
Whatever tickles your fancy, I guess
Exactly,
you could say.
exactly. But yeah, for right now, women's wrestling I think is on the higher up, and that would be my pick for WrestleMania. If we're going to talk about Road to WrestleMania, and if we want to have a legit Divas title match, I just made it for you, a Fatal 4-Way.
I completely like it. I think it's a great idea. With Nikki on the shelf, she was the longest tenured champion, blah, 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 because they want to erase AJ Lee from history.
Right.
Which, okay, all right, whatever. She doesn't exist, but really, for me, it's like, But I like the idea. I like your idea, and give these women an opportunity to blossom. Give them 20 minutes at WrestleMania, and they'll steal the show.
Absolutely. I think that, and they'll probably have them leading up to the main event, because that's usually what they've done the last couple of WrestleManias. Women's matches have kind of led into the main event. So I'm cool with that. And who would be your Divas champion at WrestleMania? Do you have
Sasha Banks?
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is kind of the grooming aspect. I think this is the tease of having her come out solo at the Royal Rumble. This is going to lead into her being now a top heel / tweener, because she's not really a heel. She's not really a face. She's all about herself. That is, I think, is going to be her stepping stone to walk away with the Divas Championship at WrestleMania.
It makes perfect sense.
It does, and she rightfully deserves it. Another match at the Royal Rumble, The New Day versus the Usos. Tag team titles. What did you think of this one?
I just was hoping for some musical instruments.
Francesca?
I want to be entertained. That's basically what it is.
I think this was probably
and
like the
Usos
worst match
for
on
me.
the
Usos for me. I think actually you can attest to this. I think I went and got some more of your fabulous dip.
Yeah, Yeah,
And
this is a piss break match. This is the piss break match if there ever was one. Granted, the New Day, very popular. I don't love them. I don't like them. I'm kind of like, the New Day's cool. The Usos, terrible, boring, overrated. They're horrible. And if it wasn't for their father Rikishi, and if it wasn't for them being related to The Rock and Roman Reigns and whatever, the family aspect, they wouldn't be on this main roster. I mean, I liked them in the beginning. They were cool guys, but their gimmick is just totally drained for me. And I'm glad that they did not have them beat the New Day for the tag team titles. The New Day is just...
New Day is over right now.
They are over. They're the best thing entertaining-wise going on Raw, pay-per-views, whatever. They're not getting to the point of being too much over the top, and they're not really annoying to me. I mean, obviously you got Xavier Woods out there playing Francesca, or Francesca 2, I should say, since the other one got destroyed by Chris Jericho. But I mean, this is the team that has just really got a lot of talent, and they're riding high. And they obviously had a very big segment, as we will discuss here in a minute, with a certain someone on Raw last night. But I mean, the New Day is a team that I can see them carrying the tag team titles all the way to WrestleMania and beyond.
And who's going to take it from? There's nobody.
Dudley Boys?
The Dudley Boys they're
jobbers.
That are now not even on the main card on Royal Rumble.
They were pushed aside. I heard that they were pushed aside for the New Day. And and rightfully so, because when you're trying to push new up and coming stars, well, Kofi he's been around a while, but guys like Big E and Xavier Woods, who are newer guys, and the chemistry with the three of them is just amazing. It's just off the charts. The Dudley Boys, I'm sure, have no problem doing this.
No, I think that they went in there, they had their big feud with the Wyatts, and now they're kind of just gonna dwindle off again. Yeah. I don't know if they're really gonna come back around. I think you might have a big fatal 4-way tag team match at WrestleMania. The Dudleys, the Usos, the New Day, and the Lucha Dragons, the Ascension or something.
Teddy Long would be very, very happy. Tag team matches, playa. Teddy Long loved making those tag team matches.
Yeah, that'll be at WrestleMania, no doubt about it.
So you see them probably holding onto their belts after WrestleMania.
I would say so.
I don't think they have any true contenders right now. And then, of course, like we touched on in the beginning, the main Royal Rumble match, Triple H wins, but AJ Styles comes at number 3. AJ Styles is going to be probably a hot name, hot commodity to come for many years. I know he just signed a multi-year deal with WWE. That was the whole backstage news on his contract.
Easy on the many years boat. He is 38 years old.
Yes,
and I marked out just as much as you did, and I am a huge AJ Styles fan. Love what he brings to the ring. Love his attitude. Love everything that he is about. The phenomenal one. Everything.
I'm glad they were able to keep the trademarks too from TNA and his previous career, other promotions. The AJ Styles name, the Phenomenal One. What was this? The Styles Clash.
The Styles Clash and the Pele that I've yet to see.
Yeah.
If he performed it last night, I completely missed it. But he
finally hit the Styles Clash. He tried doing it in the Rumble, but he didn't do it. But he did it on Raw last night. So
the music, I wasn't so sure about when his music hit the Rumble. I wasn't sure. I like Get Ready to Fly. If you want to YouTube that, be my guest. But I like that theme for him.
Yeah, the remix of it.
Get Ready to Fly, the remix.
Get Ready to Fly. Yeah.
But I'm just absolutely stoked that AJ Styles is in WWE. I'm looking forward. I really hope and pray that creative does not botch this opportunity with AJ Styles in his late career. It's winding down.
I mean, you heard Chris Jericho in his match with Jericho last night on Raw say, get up, kid. He looks like a kid. He's a baby face, but the guy's 38. He's pushing 40. I mean, he's been around, not as long quite as Jericho, but he's been around the ropes. I mean, he's been around since the late 90s. This is a guy that has been all over the world, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, and yeah, the guy can fly, the guy can move, the guy can do anything in the ring. He's an artist in the ring as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, you got to really be careful about how you book him. And we were talking prior to the show of what could be future plans. Now, the number one question everybody's asking, will AJ Styles be WWE World Heavyweight Champion this year? 2016.
I'm going to go with no, because I think that he is... What does it make sense for him to be WWE Champion? I think he's got to... For AJ Styles and for the fans go, I want to see the dream matches. I want to see Styles versus Jericho again.
We saw that. Yeah.
That was great. Yeah. I want to see Styles versus Reigns, Ambrose,
Kevin Owens, Finn Balor.
Finn
eventually.
Balor, Sami Zayn. There's a lot of guys that
So many good, talented wrestlers.
that he doesn't need the title
Absolutely.
to have good quality with.
Intercontinental Championship. I think that you got to kind of start him off slow. I think that Intercontinental Champion would be perfect for him, and that's why I was talking earlier about the whole Dean Ambrose turning heel thing at Fastlane. I think that Dean Ambrose, if he does end up turning heel, whether it be at Fastlane or even post WrestleMania, it's going to happen eventually. That would be a great match, and that would be a good stepping stone for AJ to take the Intercontinental Championship off of Dean Ambrose and run with it for a few months. I think that would be great.
It makes perfect sense, but you have to make sure that you turn Dean Ambrose heel.
Yes.
Unless you bring in the whole Balor Club and you turn AJ
Bullet
Styles.
Club.
You turn in the whole Balor Club was Bullet Club.
Yes.
For the record. But
Balor Club, yeah.
what it is bringing in the Bullet Club, which guys are signed.
Are
Are they going to be
hyping
here? Are they going to be here?
They've already signed
to
rights
be
to the
with Styles. And if you bring those guys up, do you pair them with Styles, or do you kind of have them kind of go off on their own on the side? I think you want to leave Styles alone right now.
You do, and I
don't think you want to bring him in with people, because I think you want to give him matches with singles competitors that are going to steal the show. They're going to be a big draw. And the thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way last night was the whole reaction with AJ Styles.
Absolutely.
AJ Styles got a huge pop at the Royal Rumble.
The biggest pop of the night, easily.
And what happened last night in Florida? I know that everybody was waiting for a certain someone because it was rumored all day that he was there, and he was there. He showed up later on, the Rudy Poo one himself. But where was the reaction for AJ Styles?
Even when he
came out, it was like, oh, AJ Styles.
It was just like, one of these,
like a golf clap.
Yeah, when Renee Young interviewed him backstage, you heard a little bit of like a out of the crowd, a little bit of a reaction. He gave his little speech. Chris Jericho interrupted. They had their stare down, whatever. And then, like the entrance was very lackluster. And I talked to you about this before the show started. Like the Royal Rumble, the crowd was just insane. It was like a WrestleMania type crowd. And usually the post WrestleMania Raws have the same crowds, if not more crazier crowds. And I was expecting that out of last night's show, and I just did not see it. And it was more so a few certain individuals down the front row were gaining more attention than the wrestlers. And I know that that's something that Vince frowns upon. But, AJ just did not really get the reaction I thought he would. But the match, and it really, they always say that sound adds just so much to anything, a concert, a sporting event, or whatever it may be. And it kind of did it with the Chris Jericho-AJ Styles match last night. It was a good match. I wouldn't say it was an A-plus amazing match, but it was a good debut match for Styles, and it was a good match overall. Will I consider it match of the year candidate? Probably not. But I think with the crowd being so dead, it just kind of took away that whole feel, that atmospheric feel to the match. It didn't give that emotion away like it did at Royal Rumble.
It was just like an everyday match. Like, it's AJ Styles' second match in WWE. He's going against Chris Jericho. This could be, match of the year that we're witnessing, and it's like, oh, AJ Styles and Chris Jericho, whoopee. Where was the reaction? Like, yes, it's on a Raw, so it's not going to be, a pay-per-view quality match, but it was still a darn good match for what it was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was no botching. Very, very just well executed, very well played out, choreographed match, and that's really all you can. And that's what you're going to get from guys like Jericho and Styles. And also, I talked to a guy at work about this too, about maybe the chemistry wasn't quite there because they've never really wrestled together.
I think that can be true to an extent, but with Jericho and Styles, they've both watched each other for so many years, and they're both, in their...
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, it's, they can gel. Jericho and Styles have watched each other. You never know. They could have ran into each other in Japan. You don't know the history of Jericho and Styles, but they've watched film. They've heard about each other, obviously.
As far as long-term goals, obviously I did touch on Styles being pushed with the Intercontinental Championship at some point, probably post-WrestleMania. Money in the Bank. Obviously, I think you would probably have your top pick as AJ Styles of winning that and carrying the briefcase. Do you think you start him off that high so soon?
Money in the Bank, I think, is a big stepping stone.
That's right around June, I think.
For everybody that is going to win the title. And that's a big thing is, everybody that gets Money in the Bank wins. Now, it makes perfect sense for, past winner Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was the guy. He was growing. People were hating him, but at the same time liking him because how good he was. Seth Rollins is a phenomenal talent.
Exactly.
Not to steal AJ Styles'
and he's
catchphrases,
but very well missed.
But that is a guy that you can build upon. Is AJ Styles? Yes, I know that he is past his prime, but I can see him winning Money in the Bank and possibly winning a title, because when you're signing on to WWE and you're in that room with Vince McMahon looking in his eyes, and he's going to straight up tell you, we're going to bring you in here and you're never going to win the title because of how old you are and because we don't know what to do with you, it doesn't make sense.
No, it's asinine to think that. I don't think that even AJ Styles himself thought he would get such a just monumentous reaction at the Royal Rumble, because they recorded interviews of him. He did one prior to the Royal Rumble, before the whole thing even started, and then he also did one after he was eliminated. And the one that he did before the Rumble, he was saying that, I don't know how they're going to react to me. I mean, this was totally a shoot. This was totally off the cuff. He's like, I have no idea how they're going to react to me. Are they going to accept me? Are they going to know who I am? Are they going to really think that I am, who am I?
It's nice to see that he's humble. And
he knows. He's very humble.
And he's very humble. And
he's been through this before.
Came through the ropes with, TNA, ROH, New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been all around. He wrestled in bingo halls, like a lot of the WWE talent.
He earned his dues. He paid his dues.
He has paid his dues, and he belongs in WWE, and he should have been in WWE a long time ago.
Yes. Yep.
He really should have been.
So, I mean, is it safe to say, though, that, we're going to probably end up seeing him as a big threat for the Money in the Bank ladder match?
Absolutely. I completely... If not, I would like to see who. And if you're going to have a Money in the Bank match, stack the lineup. Oh, God. Stack the deck with
NXT
Balor,
guys,
Zayn, Styles, Owens. Jericho, Owens. Stack the deck.
Well, I could probably already predict that at least one or two of those guys are going to be either Intercontinental or U.S. champion. But who cares? Put them in there anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're doing this already. Hell, Ambrose, he would have been. They did it with Seth Rollins, U.S. champion and WWE World Heavyweight champion. So why not?
And that is a big thing that I'm looking forward to. It's going to be a long time, and hopefully Styles stays healthy. But the whole thing that we have to look forward to as wrestling fans, Styles versus Rollins.
And it's really not that far off, because Seth Rollins is healing at a pretty quick rate. We might not see him at WrestleMania, but we probably will see him very soon. I mean, I can say probably by summer we'll see Seth Rollins versus AJ in some aspect, or some kind of a feud building up to that.
And this is what keeps me so excited about pro wrestling, is it's not the returns of The Rock and Austin and Taker. It's the optimism that I feel for guys like AJ Styles and Finn Balor and Bayley and just all these people that are being signed and that are on the wings and on the cuff of coming up here.
Kind of reminds you of like the Red Wings.
It is.
It's like, you know that WWE is in good hands with Triple H running things in NXT. Same as the Red Wings, their future is bright because of what they have going on in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their drafts. It's amazing, really, what you have to look forward to. So, I mean, there's never going to be a real rebuilding period for WWE. I mean, it's continuous. They're on the road 360 days a year.
No off seasons.
No off seasons, which they've been talked about very highly as of late, especially with all these recent rash of injuries. But, that's why you have guys toning things down a little bit, maybe taking more time off. And I can just only imagine when Seth Rollins comes back, the reaction he's going to get. It's probably going to be a major face pop. He might not turn face, but it'll happen organically, and that is something that Roman Reigns has not done. We have been force-fed Roman Reigns, and that is why he is where he is right now. The big story from Raw last night, as we're going to touch now about Raw, The Rock, the great one, the people's champion, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, made his return last night in a pretty damn entertaining segment last night. I love this Rock. I think that this is the Rock that it kind of reminded me of 2003 heel Rock after he came back from Hollywood. He came back and did that match against Stone Cold and Goldberg, and I think it was more comical, more loud and obnoxious Rock. And the way he made his entrance, driving up in the big Ford truck, and we thought it was The Rock in the limo, and it turned out to be Miz. And I loved everything about it. Just everything was very off the cuff, very unplanned, and they just let The Rock do his thing. And he's only one of probably two guys that can get away with the things that he did last night. Rock and Stone Cold, in my opinion, are the only two guys in wrestling that can get away with the things that they did last night. And those, obviously, the guys that I had mentioned earlier, the ones that stole the show, the cosplay guys, I guess you could say, the impersonators, the Randy Savage impersonator, the Hulk Hogan, the Rock, and the Undertaker impersonators. They were in the front row, camera side, during the first half of Raw, and then they mysteriously vanished over to the other side by the announce team. And then when The Rock comes out, he's doing his thing, and then he spots these guys outside the ring, and he's like, all right, we're going off the script. And I can just see Vince McMahon backstage.
Vince McMahon's behind.
He's having a coronary backstage, like, oh my God, please don't do this.
Dwayne, what are you doing?
Take the camera off these guys. Do not put the camera on these guys, please. And then sure enough, The Rock is going through one by one, and they're all saying who they are. And they come to the Hulk Hogan guy, and I was just like, oh my God. And they let Hulk Hogan's name slip through the airwaves on WWE programming for the first time in months. And it's just like, oh, yes, I love this. And then, of course, the segment with the New Day.
It's really a shame that Hulk Hogan has turned into Voldemort.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that, he, the one that cannot be named, is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, who is that? Terry who?
It's sad that how WWE has made that. I know what he did was absolutely wrong, but come on.
Well, there's been talk, and if you want to look at the dirt sheets and what the beat writers are saying, Hulk Hogan could be back by WrestleMania. And I think that what they're doing is they're just going to wait for this whole thing with.
We're at the Silver Dome, brother.
Yeah, it is the Superdome, brothers. Yeah, I think that there is a slight chance that he'll be back once they get this whole lawsuit with Gawker out of the way that he's been trying to take care of. I think that since it's had a lot of time to kind of die down, the racial comments, the sex tapes, whatever, it's kind of all blown over. Nobody's talking about it no more. I think that they will ease him back into WWE programming again. It might not happen at WrestleMania, but I think it'll happen very soon after.
Don't blow WrestleMania with Hogan, please.
We'll see. All of a sudden, he'll just be backstage doing like some sort of like a segment off camera, and it'll be like, "Oh, there he is. What's he doing here?"
Oh goodness. Let's not do that.
But going back though, let's go back. All right. So on another happier note, The Rock and the New Day. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I thought it was pure comic genius. Obviously, as soon as the New Day came out with the unicorn headbands, I knew that it was just going to be
some sort of sexual innuendo was coming.
Yes. Yeah. And llama penises, and saying weed on PG programming nowadays, and Hulk Hogan dropping Hulk Hogan's, like all the things that were dropped by The Rock. And with the New Day, it's just...
You wonder if Vince McMahon was waiting for him behind the curtain.
Behind gorilla position.
Or was he just like, all right, it's The Rock, and he's made me millions of dollars, so I'll let it slide.
That's what I said. Only one of two guys that could get away with much things to say on TV. I don't know, because you would think that, it's Tuesday, it's the day after Raw. Nothing's been said about Vince McMahon, because everybody wants to know, how did Vince McMahon react to that promo by The Rock? And I haven't read nothing about it. So, I mean, there's no heat or anything that I've read about. So I guess all was well after he came back through the curtain.
At least that's what you think.
Yeah.
But
I mean, behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors is a completely different story. But Vince McMahon probably can give him a pass because of who he is, simply put.
I was really thinking The Rock was going to be there in maybe a more of a different way. I thought maybe to give Roman Reigns a pat on the back and kind of, suck up to him. But it was more of like, we're in Miami, I'm back home, just one more time to electrify his hometown fans. And, he did make it apparent that we'll see at WrestleMania, so we probably won't see The Rock on WWE TV until WrestleMania.
Yeah, he'll be gone.
Which we still have no idea. They're keeping that a dead secret of what his role will be. It's going to be something that's really monumental. It's The Rock. The only thing I can think of is just being in Roman's
special guest referee for Roman Reigns, Triple H.
That would be more of a
you heard it here first.
That would be more of a kind of like a swerve than to just have him in the corner of Roman Reigns, because that's really, I think, what a lot of people were thinking. I don't think a lot of people see The Rock in a physical role, but in some sort of a main event role.
I don't think he could wrestle, but I would say that the whole referee idea would be a good idea, but how is that going to happen with Triple H and Stephanie being in power?
And with Vince, too.
If Roman Reigns wins, he gets to name a stipulation, so he then says, well, The Rock is the referee. Believe that. And then that's your WrestleMania? That's my idea, is say, like, if Roman Reigns beats 6 men, maybe all the Wyatt family and whoever else, in a match on Raw, he gets to name his stipulation. And then boom, boom, bang, there's your match for WrestleMania.
That's an idea for sure. creative could be calling for you there, Dan.
It might be. I'll give you my number. You can call me.
It's still so early to tell. Yeah, we are on the very slight bumpy road to WrestleMania. We're still a good 2 months away. We're definitely going to find out a lot more probably after Fastlane, which we still got just about a month left until that pay-per-view. But I think Raws are going to get slightly better. I think they're going to get more entertaining to watch. We saw The Rock appear in a kind of a cameo role, but we still got to wait for The Undertaker to come back, as we mentioned earlier. More names got to start coming up here. And as we get closer to WrestleMania, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting road. And I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that storytelling is a big question. And then it's not, this year for me, it's not about titles. It's not about who is going to win, who's going to lose. It's about, I want to see the best quality matches.
Storytelling.
I know I've said this a lot in this episode, but I want to see the best match that you can provide. Whether if it's for a title or whether it's not for a title, I just want to see the best
grab
talent.
that brass ring.
I want to see the best talent.
Yeah.
In that ring, Styles versus Balor. Whatever. Whatever it might be, you bring that to the table, you rock the house, and WWE fans will start jumping on board again. I know WWE has lost some fans because the past couple months has been absolutely brutal.
Very lackluster.
And it's lethargic out there. It's terrible.
And repeat matches that we've seen just months after months or week after week, they're just throwing guys. It's like you're putting your mid-carders in a hat, and you're just throwing you're throwing your hand in the hat, and you're just going to pick out, all right, here, Miz, you face Dolph Ziggler tonight. Like, there's no storyline behind it, but
R-Truth, go out there and climb a ladder and look like a fool.
That was comedy. I don't know about you. I know that you were probably like a little bit like, what? What was that? But me and Chris talked about this afterwards, and we were like, you know what? We watched it again, and it was just like, that's his thing. And even on Raw, we saw him and Goldust. And Goldust is doing the stutters, bringing back the stutters from like 10 years ago. And
where's Cody Rhodes?
Well, Stardust will be. I did read that Stardust is ending soon, and they are going to be bringing back Cody Rhodes, which is like, thank God. The Stardust thing has kind of run its course for me. But I would be happy to see dashing Cody Rhodes back.
Then that ruins the whole Stephen Amell angle with him.
Not really.
But
you can just do Stephen Amell versus Cody Rhodes.
It makes sense.
You don't have to do I don't like the whole Red Arrow. That was Neville, obviously. But just to do like that whole thing, you can still keep that feud going. But he doesn't have to be Stardust to do it. It's
true. You could do the whole dashing Cody Rhodes versus Stephen Amell Arrow.
Yeah, why not?
At WrestleMania. It's terrible.
I think that when they were together as a tag team, Goldust and Cody, or Goldust and Stardust, the brothers, I think that was more entertaining. And then when he kind of went solo, it was just kind of like, this can only last for so long. And I think it definitely ran its course dry. And I'm not going to hate on Stardust going back to Cody Rhodes. Trust me. But we've hit the 1 hour and 5 minute mark of our show. I'd say this is a pretty good debut. I hope we didn't jump around too much for the listeners that are out there. We did have a few in the chat room tonight, so I appreciate you guys listening. And just a real quick reminder, though, that this is going to continue on Wednesday nights moving forward. We're only doing that. This was just a special Tuesday night show because, unfortunately, I had plans tomorrow night. I have trivia tomorrow, so we will be going back moving forward to Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. right here on TalkShoe.com. So be sure to stay tuned and continue with us moving forward. So I guess that wraps one up. What do you say, Danny?
Sounds good.
All right. So on behalf of myself, Derek, and my co-host, Danny, we are going to call this a night. So everybody,
cheers to your WWE mugs.
Cheers. Yes.
End of the show thing here.
Yep. We'll do this every week. Yep.
Water.
All right.
101.
Yeah. Gotta love H2O. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.